So there goes the graphics budget right there. Since the improvement of diplomatic ties between the United States and Cuba last year, many American tourists have now tried to figure out just how to vacation in or on the island nation. Just this month, in fact, the first American cruise ship in decades sailed from the U.S. bound for Cuba. The trip represents just the latest step in normalizing relations between the two countries. To discuss it from a travel perspective, insider Mark Murphy was on that ship, and here to discuss it all, of course, the founder of TravelPulse.com. Mark, first, as that ship got closer to Cuba, what exactly was the anticipation like?
Well, for us, it was amazing. Yeah. Everyone was so excited. We had some Cuban Americans that, up until a few weeks before that, weren't going to be allowed to sail. So there was just this excitement. There were news crews. We were totally stoked to check out Havana. And as you saw that time lapse coming in, just the entry to Havana is really amazing from a vessel. And we were on the Fathom Madonia, which is the first line in decades to be able to sail there.
Now, until we saw the first news cruise go in when the normalization of relations was first announced, I mean, you know, the enduring images of Cuba for a lot of people, generations, might be The Godfather Part 2 when things went south there. How did it compare? Does it still seem a place stuck in the 50s?
Without a doubt. I mean, it's literally, you're stepping back in time. Despite the fact that Canadians and Europeans have been going there for decades, for Americans, it's frozen in time. You walk around, you see some facades that have been restored that are beautiful, but then you get a couple blocks out of the historic area and you see these buildings that are in disarray, which make for a photographer's dream trip. It's an amazing sight. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I wish I had more time to spend on the ground there, to be frank.
The electronic artist Diplo actually met with our Charlie Rose. They ended up saying, hey, let's go down there together. And nice. Diplo went down to do a concert. It drew hundreds of thousands of young Cubans into the streets for a concert. And Diplo himself said, I was struck by, frankly, their knowledge of my music, that they're on top of things. I wonder, in discussing the normalization of relations between the two countries and other things, how open were they to discussing how it's going between the U.S. and Cuba?
Well, first of all, they couldn't be more excited. Yeah. I walked out of off the pier, and there were people just spontaneously showing up. They were waving flags, American flags. They were cheering us. It was like you were rock stars being welcomed, you know, backstage to all of your crazy fans, and everyone had that same experience. I'm not saying that's going to happen every time, but in that case, it did. I meandered across San Francisco Plaza, and I just sat down on some steps just to kind of take things in. As I did that, 3 guys were sitting about 10 feet away. They said, oh, where are you from? I said, I'm from New York. They said, oh, you're American. Next thing you know, they were sitting down with me. They were asking me questions. They were sharing their experiences. They even said that, hey, a couple of years ago, if we had done this, we would probably get taken in and questioned afterwards. But it's much more open now. We love Americans. And that was the theme throughout the entire trip. The openness, the willingness to chat about politics and what's going on the ground there, and how excited they are because they see this as this opening, which is going to drive the economy, which is going to connect America with Cuba for the first time literally in 50 years. It's so exciting for the Cuban people, and they couldn't embrace you more.
Once upon a time, Michael Corleone and Hyman Roth wanted to get in there and drop a casino onto the shores. What do we think right now? Our major hotel chains, the folks, our friends in the desert, are they now lining up to be the first in?
Everyone is chomping at the bit because it's going to have a boom in terms of construction, a boom in terms of tourism. You're talking about 80 million baby boomers and 110 million millennials in both sides. All they want to do is travel. The boomers have the money and they want to spend it on travel. The millennials might not have as much money, but whatever they have, it's going to travel. And Cuba is a destination that appeals, frankly, to both. And you're just going to see an incredible surge. I also feel like, you know, some destinations you go to, you experience it, and you're like, oh, I've been there, done that, move on to the next destination. With this destination, I am so going back, and I think that's going to drive, you know, a lot of investment. And you're seeing hotel chain signing deals. You're also seeing all the airlines. All the airlines are lining up and competing for those rights to fly in, because right now the only way to get there is on a charter. or take a cruise.
Yep.
This one cruise line.
So that's it. I was going to ask. You know, American tourists once you'd have to go through another country or out if you weren't chartering. But now, if I'm a U.S. tourist right now and I want to go, what are my options now?
So you have to work with an accredited operator who will fly you there on a charter, like JetBlue does charters out of JFK, American Airlines does charters out of Miami, for instance, and it's a short hop, you go over, but it's very expensive. I mean, it could be $3,000, $4,000 per person to go for, you know, 7 to 12-day type of experience. Canadians are going down and paying a fraction of that because they don't have the same hurdles that we have, which is the people-to-people program, which is still in place but is getting relaxed, because that means that somebody has to organize that. It has to be for a specific cultural, religious, you know, business type of trip. A journalist like you or me, we can go, but everyone else, they have to have this visa, they have to have the permissions, they have to have it set up, and that's why it's costly. The infrastructure is not there today to support what Americans would hope would be a 4 or 5 star experience. So you're going to see these chains come in and really change the dynamic. I just hope it doesn't change the overall experience in the destination.
So again, that's the spectrum, right? Where do we fall upon it? What will happen, do you suppose? Again, a nation whose people have been anxious to receive visitors from the United States, at least for the money they would bring and the economy that they would bolster. But now that this change is coming, it is irreversible. It's on the horizon. What do we talk 10 years from now? What do we talk when we talk about Havana 10 years from now? What do you think?
10 years from now, Havana is going to still maintain, because it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, still going to maintain that look and feel, but what you're going to see is a lot of development outside, on the beaches, resorts, etc. And people will go down and do city stays, but they'll also go out and relax and enjoy the beaches, because the beaches are amazing. So you're going to have an opportunity to have a cultural city experience with history married with a beach vacation to relax, and I think it's going to be a big-time repeat destination. I think you're going to see a lot of the cruise lines go in there. What they have to manage in particular is just the influx of people at any given time, because the streets right now in Havana are quite busy, and you just want to be able to maintain that feeling. Those vintage cars, amazing. That is a lot of the appeal of the destination today, and I hope it stays that way.
As long as it doesn't become just another choked port of entry.
Correct. Yes.
I have to tell you, jealous. Really,
it was amazing.
Really
you got to get down there, man.
A complicated socio-political spot, but boy, one sure to visit.
Exactly. Travel, yes. The politics of it, I'll stay out of that.
All right, that's another segment for another time. Perhaps another fancy graphic as well. You never know. Mark Murphy of TravelPulse.com. We appreciate it.
Thank you.